been working on this for a long time, so don't worry, we have lots to say.
Yeah, well, popcorn.
But we thought we'd make a title for our presentation, and the title is Reducing Greenhouse Gas Emissions Through Energy and Alternative Transportation. And of course, coming from Holland, I'm all about riding the bicycle. And I wanted to just say a few things. I hope I can do this with the sun in my eye. But
Susan?
yeah,
Or just,
the sun is moving. So, okay, is this okay?
yeah,
Okay.
that's great.
All right.
Push it back out.
So it was Jane Goodall who said in this week's Time magazine, there are 4 things that we need to do to slow down global warming. And those are actually the same things that we need to do if we are ever going to truly have world peace. And those 4 things are eradicate poverty and, for us, change our unsustainable lifestyle. And those 2, of course, are intimately connected, just like everything is connected. The other one is get rid of corruption. And the 4th one is paying attention to the exploding world population, which makes it even more critical that we address the first 3. And I thought, since we've had all these great kind of visionary speakers, so practical and visionary, I thought I wrote this out this morning when I woke up, and I thought the 3 of us would actually talk. What would Ojai look like if we were really, really serious about reducing carbon emissions? And this would, relate to our personal lifestyle, which has to go a radical change. We need a huge, huge paradigm shift in how we view the world. And Kathy, Nolan, and I have been working for actually between us about 30 years to make Ojai a truly bicycle, pedestrian-friendly community, and we have miles to go. And so while I've got you sitting here, if you think, if you're one of the people who doesn't get on a bicycle or walk very much because you don't feel safe, you need to tell City Hall that you want to see protected bike lanes. The more you say it, the more it will happen. So, yeah, and then I was thinking, we've had all this talk about Ojai protesting, fracking and oil drilling, but we're hypocrites, of course, if we still drive everywhere, and that's just the bottom line. So, in keeping with that, and it's not only, I was thinking, it's not just the gas. People think it's not just oil and gas. It's the fact that with global warming, we cannot continue to build more heat-generating asphalt parking lots. And right now, the city is looking at the parking problem, and what they really need to be doing is focusing, in my opinion, on growing more trees. Just the opposite. But the focus, and when I go down Ojai, I spend a lot of time studying traffic flow, as does Kathy. I'll be quiet in a second.
That's okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. And the stench on Ojai Avenue is unbelievable. Okay, you know how when Greta came on the boat close to New York, Trevor Noah, she was on the Trevor Noah show, he asked her, what was your impression? And she paused for a minute, and she said, her impression of New York was, it's undescribable, and there's a stench. Okay? So if we really are serious about having clean air, if you were here this morning, there were several speakers that addressed that we have the worst air quality, and we can't just blame it on oil and things outside of us. Our whole lifestyle is part of it. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to follow up with what Suza was saying, and this is more about transportation alternatives. So presently, if you look at reports all over, basically in the entire United States, the 2 biggest sectors for greenhouse gas emissions are energy and transportation. And in the state of California, I believe agriculture is up there at the top, but nevertheless, transportation and energy are right up there in the top 3. And so that's part of the reason why we're emphasizing what we're saying is we have to change the way we think, the way we operate, And even though we're both working in government, not always look to government, what can we do individually and to make lifestyle changes that don't have to be negative. They actually can be really fun and a contribution to your community. And so that's part of the reason we're up here talking about how can we change our local transportation system to cut down or reduce greenhouse gas emissions. But also it's a way to build up your health. It's a good form of exercise, less money needed for parking and road maintenance. And it's actually a form of transportation and getting around that's not going to cost you as much money. You're not going to have to buy fossil fuel, et cetera. Another cool, there goes the sun, I just got it. No, I left my sunglasses back there. Article I read, and this was from Transportation America, thank you. Just this week, they were saying it's great to, for everyone to start converting to e-vehicles, but what we really need to do is, whether you have an e-vehicle or a standard car, cut down on your VMTs. That stands for vehicle miles traveled. So what that means is start thinking about stacking functions. If you're on your way home from work, you go to the store, you go to the post office. You don't go home and then go, oh, I forgot to go to the store. So you start doing conscious planning. So that's one minor way that you can do it. But another way is to just say, I'm not going to go somewhere unless it's local. Or maybe if I am going to go somewhere local, can I walk? Can I bike? Can I take the trolley? Can I take public transportation? Can I carpool? And I'm just going to share a quick example. There is a film playing in Camarillo, and I was going to go with two of my friends, and I kind of felt the gulp, in my stomach of like, I'm going to drive to Camarillo to go see this film. And I was kind of feeling, that's, it's a distance. It's like 40 some odd miles. And then, but I didn't say anything to my friends. Then sure enough, my friend texted me this morning. She goes, I kind of feel guilty about driving to Camarillo. And then we started talking about it, and I said, okay, for sure we're going to carpool. We'll all go together, and I'll drive because I have a TDI, a diesel Jetta, and I run my car on biodiesel made out of recycled vegetable oil, and I get the best mileage of all the cars. And then I said, and then I've got to offset that. So I'm not going to drive somewhere else. And then I'm going to pick and choose. I'm not going to be doing, I'm not doing it already, but just to be conscious about what we're doing and when we're doing it and how we're doing it. So I'll pass it over to Kris, and then I'll talk about Complete Streets. And that's what the city of Ojai is doing, and Suza and I are involved with, along with a lot of other people. But Kris, go for it.
I actually enjoy listening to what you're talking about here. And I'll contribute to the EV conversation. I myself own a Bolt. Any Bolt owners out there? And
Does an e-bike count?
E-bike counts.
Better, yeah.
I'm big on the Bolts. The only really greater mileage out there is a Tesla, and of course, if you have another $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to spend. But what I love about it is that I know it's a smart car. It knows to start charging at the super off-peak rate, which is actually 12 cents a kilowatt from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. Wow. So I can charge my car at 5 o'clock when I get home or whatever, and it's not going to charge until 10:01. And I know a whole tank of gas, because I did the kilowatt hours and the math, cost me around $8 to $9, whole tank of gas. And that's 265 miles that I can use however I want to use it. Zero range anxiety. My wife has to go down to LA twice a week, and 75 miles down, 75 miles back, zero range anxiety. So that's the future. Yeah. It's great when you've got your car sort of working with you. I feel like we're a team together. Yep. So that's what I say about the EVs. So a little bit about sort of why I'm up here, just on renewables. And as Kathy talked about, renewables is obviously the place we want to go. Energy production, a lot of how we've got into this mess is capital greed around fossil fuels. And it takes a lot to undo fossil fuel addiction. We've got wars, we've got apathy, we've got status quo. I guess that's apathy. Well, that's apathy too. But so what can we do when you see this being played out on a global level or global market. And, so I do work at California Solar Electric. I am on my own crusade to help, nudge people forward and think through making good decisions and maybe get off that apathetic sort of train of thought that, well, it's not going to concern me or whatever it is. And for example, I made sure that Ray knew that we had a solar generator and that if this event was going to happen, why plug in to our grid when I've got a solar generator? So this event, I don't know if Ray's talked about it, has 100% fossil fuel. And what I mean by that is that this grid, this Edison grid, well, you might say, well, we're Clean Power Alliance, and we love Clean Power Alliance, but I want to sort of point out a real big misinformation or potential confusion out there. We are still 31% renewable, 69% fossil fuel. And that is the grid. Clean Power Alliance allows us in the city to use our dollars for renewable procurement out in Idaho and Nevada, wherever we're getting it. But our homes, our city, our buildings, our structure are still using the dirty mix, which is 69%. So for those folks, and I've talked to them, and I'm not going to point fingers and whatnot, of feeling that they did their duty, that they no longer feel like they should go solar because they're Clean Power Alliance, and their home is still as dirty as the next door neighbor who family grew up working for Exxon and is the biggest oil tycoon. That person's home is just as green or not green as your home as a Clean Power Alliance member. So just putting that out there that things that we can do. And what else is a benefit from rooftop solar? Well, the more local generation that we can actually have in our city, in our community, it actually builds resiliency. Because we are now no longer asking Edison to pipe in their power from afar. And that high voltage that comes in on the transmission lines in a hot summer day is what makes the transmission lines heavy and flimsy, and you get line slap, and that's what leads to sparks and whatnot. So the more local generation that we can generate on our own rooftop and that we can actually power actually begins as our own mix. And then when you're gone for 2 weeks, your neighbors get that solar energy. Okay. So that's a very good thing that we want to do. And I know right now that we are 25% penetration of solar energy for City of Ojai. And that's pretty good. Let's give ourselves an applause. That's pretty good. I'd like to say let's get to 50%. And I'm not just advocating for California Solar Electric. All boats rise in a high tide. There are some great, capable contractors out here that are in solar energy. So by all means, get 3 bids, do your research. But they're all better than Edison. That's the point here. And it's all builds towards resiliency. So there's other things we can talk about, but we've got the 2 minutes. So I want to make sure we're inclusive here. Okay. So I'm going to kick it back. But we'll be around if any other questions pop up. And here you are.
Oh, she's got hers over there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, if you have children or grandchildren, there's a new organization in town that works with us, Complete Streets, and we wanted to give it a really cool name. It's called Ojai Ride and Roll because it includes skateboarders and kids on scooters. And we're going. It happens to be National Clean Air Day, October 2nd. Every day should be Clean Air Day, of course. And then the whole week we're going to have bike trains going to school. I do this every few months. I lead a bike train to Topa Topa School with up to 50, sometimes 75 kids. And some of them will say, this is so great. This is my dreams come true. We should be ashamed as a city that we have put car parking ahead of the safety of our children. And this has got to change. And I need your help to change it. So anyway, that's happening September 30 to October 4. And if you have children or grandchildren, they'll get a notice about it from the school.
Okay. I also wanted to say, just tell you a little bit about Complete Streets. So Complete Streets is an committee through the city of Ojai. Susan and I are both members. I'm the chair. And we're open to the public. We meet, I'm just putting this out as an invitation to everyone, the first Wednesday of the month, 2:30 to 4:30 at City Hall. But some of the things that we have done and some of the things that we're doing is we helped write the policy for the city, also a master plan, and by us having our committee in those two items, when our public works director applied for an active transportation grant, a real big one that usually big cities like LA and San Francisco get, we got a really cool grant that's in process right now. And I'm hoping, I think it is going to be starting next year, they're going to start implementing, but it's going to be bike improvements on Ojai Avenue, Highway 33, street tree plantings, and we hope some stormwater capture. I'm not sure how much money we'll have, but Complete Streets is about doing all of those things in the public right-of-way. And if I didn't mention it, also sidewalks. Yes. So if those of you who aren't writing, that's another way to get involved. But please come and join us.
Thank you. And then one other last thing that in the theme of what can we do, one of the, I think, actors in fossil fuel production and our thirst for fossil fuels is who funds these huge fossil fuel productions and these, these big oil and this extraction. Well, these companies, the Exxons, the Chevrons, they're not alone. They don't get the money by themselves. Sure. Guess who's doing it? It's the banks and it's the insurance companies that are allowing for this capital investment of fossil fuels. So I did a research on the three banks, at least that I know of, Bank of Sierra and Rabobank, that just got acquired or purchased by Mechanics Bank out of Walnut Creek up in California. They passed the test. They come out with a clean record, and that's exciting. So a round of applause if anybody's there.
Yeah.
However, the elephant in the neighborhood is right over next to our art store, Cattywampus, Bank of America. If you bank with Bank of America, no fingers pointed, but we have our due diligence to make them feel uncomfortable. We can go and, I'm going to go talk to some people myself in the next couple of weeks about, whether it's setting up shop there, having some signs, starting to kind of make them feel uncomfortable, have them tell their boss, and have their boss tell their boss, and they will eventually feel that pressure. And that's going to happen on a global scale, but that's something that we can do. And why not set a goal? Let's start a goal of making it happen here that then gets Ventura County involved and then Santa Barbara involved, and then just like that, the ripple effect. And that's what Ojai can be as an incubator for sustainability, where we're small, we're agile, like Holland, and where I studied for a year, so very dear to me. They are a change maker. How Holland goes, Europe follows usually. And so that's something that we can do. Anyway, so Bank of America, any folks that bank out there, maybe Monday, Tuesday, go back in there and talk to them and ask them, do you know that you're in the top 3 funders of fossil fuel investments and projects around the world? They are contributing a huge way. So that's all I would say.
Yeah.
And guns and nukes.
Yeah.
Top of the list. Wells Fargo, Chase, and B of A. Go ahead.
Yeah, just remember, Ojai is an internationally known community for environmentalism, for artistic, for the beauty, for everything that's good and sustainable. We can be a model for the rest of the world, for Ventura County, the rest of the world. We could have a wonderful rippling effect.
And one last thing as we close, I just wanted to say, all 3 of us, we're friends, and we're all working together. And I see a lot of people that I know. I see Jack and other people that I saw earlier, and Patty. Yeah. We have a lot of people in our community that are doing wonderful things. And if we all work together and we all collaborate, we can really make this happen. And I'm just really proud and excited to live here and to know that a lot of people want to make our community the sustainable model community. And I want to be a part of doing that. And we invite everyone, thank you, Chris Young, another person I missed, out there. So please feel free to come and talk to us. And remember, we're all working together. We have the same goal here. Yeah. Thank you.